All right. Hey, peace and love, everybody. Hope that you're all doing awesome on today. It's Easter Sunday or Resurrection Sunday, 2022 today. Um, Feeling pretty good today, I have to say. And I hope that you are too. And we're just going to go ahead and get started. I delivered a message earlier, and I'll share some of the same things that I was sharing then in this broadcast. And so, welcome whoever is here. Welcome if you are here. Do a brother solid and say hi or wave or something, so I'll know who's present. I always appreciate who's present, and I'm thankful that that my Google Chrome is currently working. When I broadcasted earlier today, for whatever reason, it Transforming Love Community. For whatever reason, I could see no words, no typing or anything. Fortunately, that is working now, and I can see that. Uh, but if you would just say a quick hello or Happy Easter, Happy Resurrection Sunday, whatever floats your boat. We definitely like to know who's here, like to acknowledge you, like to send love your way. And well, we're going to send love your way regardless of if you comment or not. But you commenting is you sending some love my way, and I'd love to know who's here. So, like I said, if you would do a brother solid, that would be most appreciated. So here we are today, April 17th, 2022. It is Resurrection Sunday. And yes, I'm a person who serves in the capacity of healing and teaching people of all faith backgrounds, dealing with spiritual things. But I am also a minister, and I don't apologize for that one bit. And I happen to believe uh, that a man named Yeshua, Jesus, did walk the earth 2,000 years ago, that he did die, and that he came back to life again. I believe that. I believe in profoundly, powerfully spiritual stuff like that. And I believe that that actually was a historical fact. Whether you are in that place or not, I'll leave that up to you. But I would like to address some things that really still point to this day of resurrection. And I always get fascinated with how it is that holidays are determined. When kind of the origin of holidays, when it's determined that the holidays will be and such. A lot of holidays take place on a specific day. Okay, like February 14th every year is Valentine's Day. December 25th every year is Christmas. No, excuse me. um, January 1st every day is New Year, right? So there's some holidays that are always going to be on a set day of the year. There are other holidays that it's not on the same day every week. Maybe on the same day of the week every year. Not the same day every year is what I meant to say. Pardon me. It may be on the same day of the week every year, but not the same day. And for some, there may be a sizable gap from one year to another in terms of when that takes place. And so, um, how it is that Easter or Resurrection Sunday is determined is actually in accordance with stuff that's going on in the cosmos, really, essentially. And so, um, Easter every year falls on the first Sunday on or after the first full moon after the spring equinox. It always takes place on the first Sunday of or after the first full moon of spring. Okay. And so, and really, quite honestly, all of the days of the week are associated with an actual planet. Not everybody knows this, but for instance, the Monday is the moon's day. Tuesday is Mars's day. Wednesday is Mercury's day. Thursday is Jupiter's day. So, for instance, Thanksgiving always falls on a Thursday, but it's always the first Thursday when the sun is in the sign of Sagittarius. And Sagittarius happens to be Jupiter happens to be the ruling planet of Sagittarius, if you will. And Thursday is Jupiter's day, if you will. And so Thanksgiving is always on the first Jupiter day when the sun is in Jupiter's sign of Sagittarius. Friday is Venus's day. Saturday, can you guess what planet is associated with Saturday? Saturn. Saturday is Saturn's day. And what about Sunday? What is associated with Sunday? Sunday is the sun's day. Okay. And in a Christian context, Sunday is considered to be the Lord's day. Huh. The sun, SONSUN, really in a lot of ways speaking to the same thing. Right. And so in the context of this Resurrection Sunday, I want to kind of bring to light. That's one of the things that the sun does, isn't it? Brings light. It brings light. It brings light. It brings warmth, and it gives life energy. Okay. On a physical level, we can't really live without the sun. we need this. We need the sun to be able to live. It gives light. It gives warmth, and it gives energy, life-giving energy. I said earlier today that plants eat sunlight. That's what plants feed upon, and carbon dioxide. But they feed upon the sunlight. They take in the light of the sun through the process of photosynthesis. The green that we see is chlorophyll in those plants, right? Animals eat the plants that got their energy from the sun. And as humans, we either eat the plants or some derivative thereof, or eat the animals that ate the plants, or in some cases, eat the animals that ate the plants. Okay, but all of that is really going back to the sun, SUN, right? And so on this day is about the sun, SON, rising again, the resurrection from the dead. And I said earlier today that, like I said, the Easter is determined by the date that it's going to be on is the first Sunday after the first full moon, or on or after the first full moon of spring. And I was born on the first day of fall. September 23rd is the day I was born. It was the first day of fall. And my favorite season has always been the spring. Even though I was born on the first day of fall, my favorite season has always been the spring. And one of the things I love about the spring is that it represents, in so many ways, new life. Although I live in Florida now, where we don't really have 4 seasons by any stretch of the imagination. But in Michigan, where I'm from, where I was born and raised and spent a significant chunk of my life, there very much are 4 seasons. Some of those seasons longer than others. It's a little bit on the chilly side, or flat out cold, more than it is warm. But I always love the spring, seeing the new life sprouting out, it getting warm again, and you can most appreciate the beauty of spring and the warmth of spring after enduring the harshness of a long cold winter, after enduring the harshness of a long cold winter. And so it's not any mistake that Easter or Resurrection Sunday takes place in the spring, in the early part of spring at that, right? And so it is a time very much of new life coming forth, of new life springing forth, right? And so, what is one of the challenges that we face as human beings living on planet Earth is that we go through moments of darkness, that we go through moments of difficulty, that we go through moments of trials, we go through moments of challenges. We spend time in darkness, we spend time in suffering. We spend time in anger and guilt and shame and grief and regret and all of these other things that aren't really feel good vibes by any stretch of the imagination, right? We experience times of coldness where we feel coldness from others, or even where we are cold towards others, or even, quite frankly, towards ourselves. Curly Conscious King, good to see you this morning, my brother. Happy Resurrection Sunday to you, and much love, light, and many blessings to you as well, my friend. I hope that you're well and that bountiful, bright blessings are overflowing in your life in such a way that your cup is being filled to the point of running over and a drop of heaven is left behind everywhere you go. Anyway, so just like we as physical beings, and we are spiritual beings in physical bodies, having really a spiritual experience through a physical context of this third dimensional experience of reality or version of reality, right? But we're really multidimensional. We really exist on multiple levels. And just as the body needs the physical sun, SUN, at our core, at our essence, there are things that we need spiritually. There are things that our souls need. There are things that our souls need. There are things that our souls need to survive. There are things that our souls need to feed upon, to thrive, to continue to go forth, right? And so, like I was saying earlier, SON, we're talking about it rising. And its rising is necessary for us to be all that we can be and are intended to be. And so when you look at Jesus the Christ, for instance, you get an opportunity to study his teachings. Pay attention to what it was that he was about while he was walking the earth, what it was that he said while he was walking the earth. And there are essentially two things that he was aiming to do in terms of conveying to the people. And that was transformation of their mind, bringing light, helping people to see things differently. He taught, if your eye is single, your whole body will be filled with what? With light. All right. He came to change people's minds and to transform people's hearts. That's what he was doing in his earthly ministry. Remember what I said, the physical sun brings? It brings light and warmth. And so too does the SON bring light and warmth, enlightenment, calling forth for us to be transformed by the renewing of our mind, to see things different, to operate differently, to operate in the light, and also to operate from a space of love. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. This is the first and the greatest commandment. The second is like unto it. Love your neighbor as yourself. On these two great commandments hang all of the law and the prophets, he said. Said, if you want to know that you're my follower, how do you know that you're my follower? Because you love one another, right? This is primary teaching. And so here we are as human beings on this Easter Sunday, this Resurrection Sunday. And the title of the message I delivered earlier today was It's Sunrise Time. It's sunrise time. It's time for the sun to rise. Spell it S-U-N, spell it S-O-N. Regardless, it's in both cases, it's time for the sun. It's sunrise time, right? It's time for us to allow a new life to come forth within us, to allow Christ to be resurrected in us. And something that I said earlier today, and I'll say it again, in every moment, something is rising up, and it's either the carnal or it's the Christ. In every moment, something is rising up in us. It's either the carnal or it's the Christ. Here's the thing. We get to choose which one. Now, one might rise up by default. If that's the route that we've been accustomed to going, that tends to be the more carnal way, right? For the Christ to rise up within us, that sometimes requires us to be more intentional. For the Christ to rise up in us, it takes a conscious decision to allow the Christ to rise up in us. The reality is that we're all needing the child of God in us to be operating and to be in control rather than the dark side that all of us have within us. We all have the darkness and the light within us. We all have the carnal and the Christ within us. And we get to choose which one we're going to operate with. Okay. Whether we're going to surrender to the carnal or whether we're going to surrender to the Christ. Ponder that for a moment. Ponder that for a moment. I can't tell you what you're ultimately going to do. Maybe I can. I've got a hunch. The reality is all of us go back and forth. Anybody who's committed their life to God, the reality is even in your commitment, you waver. You go back and forth. And sometimes you let the carnal rise up and you bury the Christ. And sometimes you let the Christ rise up and you bury the carnal. And what this day is all about is resurrecting the Christ. Resurrecting the Christ. The two aren't operating at the same time. It's like a balance. Either one is up, outweighing the other, or vice versa. It's like light and dark. Both can't occupy the same place at the same time, right? And so we get to choose, though. We get to choose. Now, the reality is all of us have things that exist within us that we might not be so proud of, that we might not feel so good about. Those are areas that tempt us to bury the Christ and cause the carnal to rise up. There are things areas where we've felt bad about ourselves. That's where we bury the Christ and the carnal rises up. There's guilt and shame that we have at times felt and experienced. There's guilt and shame that we've even put on other people. There are times where we've extended a boatload of guilt trips and invited people to pity parties. And neither the guilt trip or the pity party was good for us or them in reality. And in doing so, we've buried the Christ and allowed the kernel to rise. There are things that have happened to us, things that we didn't consciously choose. There's situations, horrendous situations sometimes, that we've experienced that we, as a result, end up feeling very, very badly about ourselves. And maybe really, really badly towards the people who we consider to be the reason that we experience those things. There are areas that all of us have buried a part of ourselves, a part of ourselves that's essential to who we are, and our hopes and our attempts to survive, and our hopes and our attempts to be able to navigate and cope with life. But the reality is, the master said that I didn't come for you to end up going through horrendous, hellish experiences. I didn't come for you to survive life, to get by in life. I came that you might have life more abundantly, that you might have life, that you might have life, that you might have life, and that more abundantly, and that more abundantly. And so, what are the things in your life? And the reality is, I didn't really say this earlier, I guess, but the reality is, this is a day that we choose to celebrate. It's the day that has the greatest church attendance for those who part of the Christian tradition. It's considered the holiest day of the year in a lot of ways. And the reality is that God made every day. So every day is really holy, but we acknowledge it as a particularly holy day, which is literally what holiday means. It's holy day. And so on this particular holy day, it's about a time of us commemorating, honoring the life of one who lived so faithfully, that he was committed to living the truth and living in love and sharing a message in love, even if it resulted, and knowing that it was going to ultimately result in his own demise, and yet also knowing that even that apparent demise wasn't really the end, that it wasn't really the end. And so here we are today, a time of honoring and recognizing the resurrection of one. Here's the thing, people. We're all one. We're all one. And may we all be resurrected. May the presence of God within all of us be resurrected. May we call that forth. May we call that forth and allow the sun to rise in us. Let the Christ be rearrested and the carnal be put aside. And the fact of the matter is that there are a lot of times where we don't want to put stuff aside. We so often feel tempted to resist. We resist the godly and I have a hard time resisting the carnal. Why is that? Why is that? Because one is the direction that everybody else is going in. It feels more comfortable. I put that in air quotes. It feels more comfortable because that's only for a short while until it doesn't anymore. Until it doesn't anymore, and it becomes even unbearable. And so there's a way that seems right to us in our own thinking and our own understanding, but that way does not lead us to where we ultimately want to be. That way leads us to death. The part of us that we don't want to die, that we really at our core don't want to die. Now, there are some things that need to fall off of us. There are some habits that we might need to break, some strongholds that we need to be loosed from and delivered from, and that we need to overcome. There's some areas in our life that we have put down in the dungeon of our consciousness, vowed to never revisit it again because that crap was painful and we do not want to revisit that pain. We're not going to allow ourselves to be in a situation where we can ever feel that pain again. And so we might try to keep from feeling that pain again by self-medicating through drugs, through relationships, through alcohol, through sex, through these devices, right? Through any number of distractions, because we don't want to feel the pain that we felt before. But guess what? That doesn't mean the pain isn't there. That doesn't mean the pain isn't there. Just because it's buried, it doesn't mean it's there. And so the key isn't to bury the pain. The key is to resurrect the life that's inside of where the pain has covered up. To resurrect the life that's inside of what the pain has covered up. You are beautiful and precious in the sight of God. You are enough, and you are more than enough. You are made to shine, to glow, to prosper, to love, and to be loved. That's how God made you. According to the design, the divine design, according to which God made you, that's the destiny that God has for you. And yet somehow along the way, we get sidetracked. And it's understandable that we get sidetracked. We go through things, and sometimes we get stuck in the stuff that we've been through. We get stuck in our pain, or we get stuck in our shame, or we get stuck in our guilt. We get stuck in these low vibrational kind of vibes. And energy ends up getting blocked in our body somewhere. And then it ends up being manifested as sickness and pain and dis-ease in any myriad of forms. But the good news is that although that might have been what we've done in the past, that doesn't have to continue to be our future. We can choose a new trajectory. And a way that we choose that new trajectory is by calling forth the presence of God in us to be resurrected, being willing to put to death, to put in the grave the things that aren't worthy of us, the things where we've tried to control other people and other situations, things that we don't have control over. The reality is, listen, I know something about resistance. I shared earlier today, I was given my senior year in high school, I was given a Bible for Christmas. I honored and revered that Bible. I wouldn't put anything on top of it. I wouldn't let anybody else put anything on top of it, but I also wouldn't open it. Because I felt like there was always something there urging me to stop doing something I didn't want to stop doing. Fear of missing out. Oh gosh. Or the other side of that was there would be something, that was encouraging me to start doing something that I didn't really want to do. Right? There's that resistance I was talking about. I know about resistance. I know about that. Oh my goodness. But the reality is that even in that, the grace of God has shown up in my life. And for some reason, a light shines through me that other people see and appreciate. Not everybody appreciates it, but other people are able to see it and appreciate it. And hopefully, and it's always been my prayer, is that the light and the love that people see in me, they see as a reflection of the light and the love that exists within them. That they feel through me that God loves them. And my hope and my prayer is that that's something that I'm sharing with people in a way that they want to be a vessel of love and light. That when people interact with them, that's the experience that they have with them as well. And that they too will want to inspire people to be expressions of pure love and divine light and touch the people in their lives. That's the hope, that's the goal. And that's just an area where I've been graced. Believe me, I have fought it. God just didn't give up on me. There's been times where I was dealing with a lot of anger, depression, resentment, bitterness, all of that crap. Even times where I've been on this spiritual journey and I've revisited, like I said, sometimes we waver between whether we're bearing the carnal and allowing the Christ to rise, or whether we're bearing the Christ and allowing the carnal to rise. And I say to you, folks, beloved, choose this day. Choose this day. It's a good day to make a good choice. It's a good day to make a good choice. It's a good day to make a good choice. What's the best choice that you can make today? What is the best choice that you can make today? Type it in the chat. Let me know. What's the best choice that you could make today? Yes, Curly Conscious King. Absolutely. God's patience for us is so unmatched and beautiful. Indeed, it is. Indeed, it is. I want to encourage all of us. I want to encourage all of us on this day to whatever area in your life that's been a stronghold, to whatever area in your life that's been a stronghold, speak to it. Challenge it. Let the sun rise. Shine the light on it. Some of you have heard this story before. The story of two wolves. You may have heard it as two lions. Since it's Sunday, I'm going to use the example of two lions. Two lions. One is both of them existing within us. Both of them existing within us. One is angry and bitter, full of hostility, and wanting to inflict pain and damage upon others. The other is full of love and grace and peace and joy and fulfillment and harmony. It lives inside of you too. And only one can be victorious in the end. Only one can be victorious in the end. Which one is that? Which one, which lion will be the stronger of the two? Which one? The one that you feed. The one that you feed. So which one are you going to feed? Are you going to feed the carnal lion? Or are you going to feed the Lion of Judah? Which one are you going to feed? Are you going to feed the anger and the resentment and the shame and the bitterness, the jealousy, the hostility, the rage, the bigotry? Are you going to feed that? Or are you going to feed the forgiveness, the grace, the light, the love, the authentic empowerment, the courage, the true power? It's not something we have over other people. The true power is the power that we have over what seeks to keep us disconnected from our power source. And that power source is God. Yeah, baby. Oh my goodness. I hope that you all are willing to consider, that you're willing to consider to allow the lion that's going to serve your highest and best good to beat out the one that's just seeking to tear you down and to tear others down. Right? I love you all so much. I really do. I really do. And because I do, I want to invite you to do something right now. I want to invite you to kind of get in touch with maybe something that you don't even want to get in touch with. Maybe it's a trauma or a hurt from a long time ago. Maybe it's a disappointment. Maybe it's animosity towards another person, maybe a parent, maybe a sibling, maybe a child, maybe an ex. I want you to get in touch with that for a moment. And in the space in which you're holding that stuff, just get in touch with that for a moment. You were trying to bury some pain, but in reality, you buried some of you. Let the dead bury their own dead, but that which is meant to be alive, let it come to life. In the story of Easter, Jesus, Yeshua, was killed, essentially lynched, put in a tomb, went to hell, ended up coming out with all power in his hand, resurrected, new life. I'm going to give you a secret. What I'm sharing with you to do is very similar to what he did to get out of hell. Shift the perspective. Shift the perspective. He faced the experience of the people who he was most trying to help selling him out, falling asleep on him his last night, couldn't even hang with him. The people that he came to serve and to set free were the people who were crying for his death. Even when the government official was trying to set him free, it was his own people that were trying to get him sent off. I shared earlier this morning, today's April 17th, 13 days ago. It was April 4th. It was the 54th anniversary of the day that Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was shot and killed on the balcony of the Lorraine Motel in Memphis, Tennessee. And many of you are familiar with at least the last part of his very famous Been to the Mountaintop speech. Okay, where he was essentially coming to terms with the fact that he was about to leave here. He delivered that message the night before he was killed, on April 3rd, 1968. But at the beginning of that message, he was talking about how on the plane, the flight attendant came on and shared that they apologized that there was a delay. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was on the plane and they had to check to make sure that there were no bombs on the plane. Okay. A lot of people were trying to discourage him from going to Memphis. He was going to Memphis in support of sanitation workers, but he was strongly encouraged by his people not to go to Memphis because of what happened the last time he went to Memphis. What happened the last time he went to Memphis? Young black males were pushing on him and harassing him. People that he was fighting for. And he asked them, "Why are you doing this?" They pointed to an unmarked car. Said the men in that car said we had to do that. He was aware that he was a marked man. He was aware that he was a marked man. And yet he continued to do what it was he was feeling led to do. Long before that was the case with him, it was the case with Jesus. Can imagine what kind of stuff was going on inside of his mind. He's a person who experienced everything that humans experience. He experienced physical pain in his body. He experienced the night before he was arrested. He was praying and crying to the point of blood coming out. He was literally crying blood because he knew what was in store. And he prayed, God, if it's all right with you, I would be quite happy for this cup to be removed from my lips, to not have to drink from this bitter cup, because I know this is about to be gut-wrenching, to say the least. I said, the people who were closest to him couldn't even stay awake with him. With them knowing it was his last night to be with them. He's alone. And he came to the point of, nevertheless, not my will, but your will be done. One of the people who was closest to him, Peter, said, man, I know that you're going to deny me too to save your own neck. Peter denied that was going to happen, but that was exactly what Peter ended up doing nonetheless. He saw that. He saw that. And when he was in this situation, process of being lynched, he said, he cried out, God, why have you forsaken me? He felt like he was forsaken by God. Wow. That's how he ended up in hell. We think about it like in a cute context sometimes. There was a song I used to listen to back in the day by a gospel singer by the name of Dara Coley. No, Dara Coley is somebody I went to school with. Daryl Coley. And the name of the song was When Sunday Comes. And there was a part in the song where Dara Coley says that um, talks about on Friday, they nailed him to the cross, and on Sunday he went to hell and preached a revival. And to a degree, that's true, that he preached a revival in hell. But he had to preach the message to himself so that he could be revived. He was revived. He was able to be resurrected because he had to tell himself a different story than the story that he had told himself previously. And you and I do the same thing. And you and I need to do the same thing. And whatever areas in your life right now that are keeping you from feeling connected to the divine, perfect life that God has for you, whatever it is that's going on within the subtle areas of your consciousness that make you think that you're not good enough, that you don't deserve blessings, that you've done too many things to be worthy or deserving of God's blessings or of love or of grace or whatever the case is. I want you to challenge that aspect. I want you to speak to that part of yourself, and I want you to speak to that part of you that's buried underneath that guilt, that's buried underneath that shame, that's buried underneath that trauma, that's buried underneath that pain and regret and guilt and all of that other negative stuff. Speak to that. Call it to take off the grave clothes and rise on up. And rise on up. One of the things that's significant about Yeshua HaMashiach and his resurrection is that you too get to resurrect. I too get to resurrect. And the reality is the resurrection only comes if something's been killed, something's dead. Without it, there is no resurrection. And so if you could have had everything the exact way you would have wanted it to go in your conscious thinking, there's a whole lot of pain and suffering that you wouldn't have experienced in your lifetime. I know that there is. Some of that pain and suffering, the reality is you brought on yourself. If you want to be real with yourself, own that. I know that there's been some poor decisions that I've made in my life that led to suffering, what would have otherwise been unnecessary suffering. There's some suffering that we're going to experience regardless, perhaps, but some of it we call upon ourselves, regardless of if it's some self-created stuff or some stuff that life just unfolded in a way that things were brought to your doorstep. I want to encourage you right now. I want to encourage you right now to minister to that part of yourself. To minister to that part of yourself that needs to be healed, that needs to be resurrected, that needs to be delivered. And speak out to that part of you and call forth for the child of God to rise up. For the child of God to rise up. For the Christ to rise up. For the light to illuminate and rise up. For the warmth to fill with love and rise up. For the source of life within you to rise up, to rise up. That's what today is about. It's about resurrecting the parts of you that you've buried or you've allowed to be buried, that were really essential parts of you. And yeah, Jesus did it a couple thousand years ago, but what about you? You deserve to rise up too. You deserve to rise up too, because God loves you and wants the absolute best for you. And guess what? I do too. I do too. I want the absolute best for you. Why? Because I love you. I love you. God loves you and wants you to love you too. I shared earlier what Jesus said about love God with everything that's in you, all your heart, mind, soul, and strength. This is the first and greatest commandment. The next one is really pretty much similar. Love your neighbor as yourself. Well, to love your neighbor as yourself, you have to love yourself. I'm hearing India Ari singing in my mind. You got to love yourself. Yes. Doesn't matter what you look like. Doesn't matter who likes you or who doesn't like you. There's some folks that don't like themselves, so they're not going to like you. But I hope that you can be in a place to really like you, to like the person that you are, to be the person that you want to be the person that you would want your children to be with, right? God bless you all. May peace and love and sunshine and melodious music and overall good vibes fill your day, fill your mind, fill your heart, your soul, and your life. I love you all, and I appreciate you being here with me today. I do. I do. And Dr. Kafira, good to see you, my sister. I love you too. Curly Conscious King, good to have you as well, my brother. I honor the Christ in you all. Oh, I don't know if you're here or not. Still, but greetings to you and whoever else is here. God bless you all. I love you. Happy Resurrection Sunday. May, ooh, may the light of God surround you. May the love of God enfold you. May the power of God protect you. May the presence of God watch over you. Know that wherever you are, God is. And where God is, all is well. God bless you. I love you. Peace and love.